This is More to Say with Randy Naughton. Interesting conversations with interesting people. Welcome into another edition of More to Say with Randy Naughton, where we talk to interesting people about interesting things. We talk to people from sports, from entertainment, from tech, from business, you name it. If they have an interesting story to tell and they're an interesting person, I want them on here. So we thank you very much for joining us. And just so you know, we are sponsored by the Lemp Mansion in St. Louis, one of the most historic and most haunted places in all of North America. If you have not visited yet, they got events, they got dinners, they got overnighters, they got all kinds of good stuff. So be sure to check them out, the Lemp Mansion in St. Louis. I also want to let you know that we're all over social media. So all those little social media icons you see down below, be sure to follow me. I post goofy stuff. I post serious stuff. I'm a huge sports fan. So if you want to follow me, please do at Randy Naughton. And of course, like, share, subscribe, and all that other good stuff to the podcast. Now, we talk about interesting conversations with interesting people. We're going to bring up our next guest. This is Cameron Fuller. And you're going, I know that face. I know that face. Well, if you especially watch Zatima on betplus, you know that he is Nathan on Zatima, and he is a native St. Louis, and he's joining us today. How you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing great, Randy. How are you?
I'm doing great. Your smile can just slay. You just have the most perfect smile. Now,
Thank you for having me.
where are you talking to us from? LA, out west,
Los Angeles. Yeah,
all
I'm out in LA.
Now, let's talk about Zatima. First, no, we're starting with your St. Louis roots. You were
Absolutely.
born
Absolutely.
and raised in St. Louis, and everybody loves that. What high school did you go to?
Of course, of course. So I have a caveat. So I went to Cardinal Ritter my first freshman, sophomore, and junior year. And then my senior year, I went to Ladue Horton Watkins.
And you
So
and you played football.
and I played football, yeah, at Ladue.
What
So
position? I'm a huge football fan.
I played wide receiver. I was a wide receiver.
Oh,
Yeah.
gotcha. Okay, now
Oh yeah.
I
Oh,
covered
yeah.
sports when I worked in TV news, but I'm thinking that's probably way before your time. What year did you
I
graduate?
was '07, '06, '07. So I was
Oh,
yeah, I was there. I mean, I started in '03 at Cardinal Ritter. So I was '03 through '07. I played throughout high school. So
nice. Then you
yeah,
went to SIUC, right?
went to
Carbondale.
Carbondale. Yeah,
And now
yeah.
you have, and
Salukis, baby.
I love this. You have a degree in broadcast journalism. So
Hmm?
you could have been a news person sitting next to me on the news desk.
Randy, my plan was to be like working for the NFL Network. You know, be a field reporter. That was like the dream. You know, once my pro dreams didn't pan out. Um, I had some workouts, but things just never panned out. You know, everybody has their path. But my goal was like, well, you know what? I have this degree in broadcast journalism. Took worked at River Region News my senior year in Carbondale, which was a student-run news TV station. So I worked there, did packages, edits. I knew how to do all that stuff. So I was like, you know, I'm just gonna go follow football. That's what I love to do, and get on with the local affiliate. And try to work my way up. And so I went to Houston. Yeah, I went to Houston, Texas, and I worked at KHOU TV.
No kidding. I love it. So what was your most memorable news story you ever covered?
Well, so the caveat for there is I worked on their morning show, Great Day Houston. So
I
it
was
was
morning show for 23
so
years. So you
you
know
know
what no sleep is like.
so you talking I'm up at 6 a.m. because we had a live 50-person studio audience.
What?
So yeah, we had a live. It was like 50, yeah, so about 50 seats, 25 chairs on this side, 25 chairs on this side. The host had her stage in the front,
Love
and the
that.
kitchen was over in the corner. It was like 1,800 square feet, that little studio we had. So, so yeah, and I was the production assistant. And so I cut the cue cards and I ran camera. And then I got moved up to associate producer, and I got to do some packages. So I got to like produce segments for Ron Isley. Uh,
Right.
Produce segments for comedians like Ralphie May, rest in peace. Got to meet a lot of interesting people. Got to meet Lou Gossett Jr., also rest in peace. He came on. So yeah, I was a associate producer, so I got to produce a little bit. So I wasn't in front of the camera, but I was getting my producing chops in.
So you got to pay your dues no matter what. And
Yeah,
I've always
yeah,
told young journalists, students, oh, I want to be on TV. I want to be in front of the camera, but I've been offered this radio job. I go, take it, take it, take it, because you say
absolutely.
yes to everything until someone gives you a reason to say no. And so that kind of leads kind of like to your path. You were saying yes, and you were doing all this other work. And so how did that transition into acting, and how did you end up in the world of acting? I love this part. Where's the note? that you ended up as Denzel Washington's stand-in. Do you know Denzel Washington's son played football? Did you ever get to meet
For the
him?
St. Louis Rams. No, I
Yeah,
never got
yeah.
to meet. I met him one time on set of Magnificent Seven, but it was very brief, you know. But yeah. So uh, goes back to being at the TV station, right? Working on the show, meeting all these different actors and entertainers that come through to promote, like whether they're a comedian and they're at the improv, so they're coming through the morning show to do the
Right.
circuit, you know, or they're coming to promote something locally, whether it's a movie that's locally, you know, a lot of talent came through. So I met Lou Gossett Jr. As he rolled through to promote the E-Racism Foundation he had before he passed. I'm sure it's still around. But back then he was promoting the Racism Foundation, just ending racism. You know, hoping to build a better world for everybody. And he saw me doing the audience warm up. So, you know, the audience warm up, I'm doing the jokes. I'm like, all right, guys, gonna clap and do this, and just kind
Right.
of put my own little spin on it, and kind of just using, just, you know, just having fun, cracking jokes. And he saw me when I came off, and he was like, "Son, have you ever thought about acting?" And it's funny because, like, you know, I've always loved films, and I've been a big movie nerd my whole life, but I've never really, I may have half-heartedly thought about it or joked about it with friends in the past, but never really went to school to train, never read a book about it. But he saw me, he was like, "You should think about acting." And I was like, you know,
So what did
wow.
you do? Did you take classes? Did you
So
follow him out
no,
there?
immediately I didn't do anything. I just kind of went back to work and you know, just kind of went on with my life. And then like 2 weeks later, I was just like a thought, like one night I was like, you know what, look up an acting class. So I found a local acting class run by Crystal Martinez. She operated this cool little acting class out of her apartment, which was like had a big studio space, so she could kind of teach in it. And it was my first acting class. And I did a monologue, and I fell in love. I was like, wow,
Aw.
this gives me that same rush that football gives. It's like performance based, you know. It's like I have
Yeah.
to perform,
That's
and I'm
really amazing that you kind of compare the two because,
yeah,
you look at football, obviously, it takes an amazing athlete and athletic specimen to play the game of football. But in the end, it's for entertainment, right? And
yes.
so they're both on the same plane as far as that goes.
Well, and also from a you know, I think a lot of athletes end up making when they if they transition into the arts, that's something they're interested in. If they
Right.
have that platform, they end up making great actors or entertainers because there's a regimentedness you need to have, and you understand you're successful. There's a regiment you have to have. You have to be very disciplined and dedicated to whatever you're trying to build and establish. So it correlates. So with acting, you have to be in class, you have to be researching, you have to be just trying to understand what it is to be, you know, even a halfway good, decent actor, someone who can live truthfully in the means of the moment of whatever the circumstances are that are presented. And so, if you can capture that, you can capture a good moment, and you thus can give a good performance. And so that's what I've learned in my now decade, almost a decade. It'll be a decade. Oh my God, no, it is a decade. Wow, I've been, yeah. So since I've embarked on this journey.
Life comes at you fast, man. It
It
sure
does. And
does,
so
Cameron.
fast forward, my acting coach ended up saying, you know, after a few months and just working with her, I was gonna go interview for audition for an agent. And she was like, "Hey, let me just tape your, you know, like I went to her to rehearse my audition, what I was gonna do." And so she tapes and she goes, "Hey, you mind if I send this to my reps?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't care. You
Yes,
know,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah. I'm gonna go meet because my mom, I'm gonna go meet this lady in Louisiana. So I'm gonna drive down Louisiana. So I'm like really not even tripping off, you know, what she's saying. I hate to say that because I'm like so focused on this. So I
Right.
go, and it turns out it was I got signed by the talent agent, the woman, but she wasn't the best agent. She was a working actress herself as well. And so she, you know, it's kind of hard to be a working actress and also
Sure.
run a
You want them to put your interests first.
exactly.
Right.
But so come full circle, my acting coach reaches out and goes, "Hey, my agents want to have a meeting with you." So I go have a meeting with the Pastorini Bosby Talent Agency in Houston, Texas. And they were like, "Hey, we love you. We'd love to sign you." And I'm just like, absolutely, you know, like if you're repping my acting coach
Yes.
and she's working on cool shows that are shooting around here and she's doing her thing, I'll gladly. So I did a lot of print work, a lot of industrial ads, a lot of Hyatt, you know, Dick's Sporting Goods, Marriott hotel ads.
Nice.
So I got my foot, like I kind of really got into it real quickly with it on that side. And that was the beginning. But then I booked an independent movie called Here We Are that was shooting in Austin, Texas. And at the same time, I was on like the little casting sites that are like, you know, extras casting or this or, and I saw a casting call for a stand-in for a Western. And I was like, man, that'd be cool to be
A
a stand.
cowboy.
I'm a cowboy. I'm like, I've always wanted to be a cowboy. So I was like, I would love to go learn what that's about. So I applied for it. And this is March of 2015. This is March of 2015. I send I apply for it, and I'm doing the movie and I never hear back. And at the same time, I'm about to quit my job because I am ready to focus on acting 100% and kind of
Right.
dedicate myself to just this jump ball, if you will, this 50-50 ball that either I can catch or I'll drop it. So I'm like, yeah. So I'm like, I'm gonna make the play and just bet on myself. And I kind of feel like I was reaching my peak with the audience coordinator, entertaining, and just getting out of that space and relying more on my own talents and skills and putting myself out there because I'd had success. I'd done national commercials for Tide. I was about to play a football player. I'd done a regional commercial in Texas for Dick's Sporting Goods where I got to work with Kurt Warner. So I was just like,
Kurt Warner, full circle
yeah,
moment,
and
man.
I'll send you that commercial in the chat. I'll send it
I
to you.
would
You can check
love
it out.
to. Yes. That is awesome. Well, let's talk about how did you end up getting cast with Tyler Perry's Zatima on BET Plus? I mean, it's entering its third season right now. You play Nathan, and it's, in looking at a bunch of the clips that I've seen, this is juicy, man. This is good. There's murder, there's betrayal, there's gunshots, there's face slaps, there's
Yeah.
fashion, there's gorgeous people. There's all of that wrapped into one. Do you find that when you run into fans of Zatima, they come up to you and go, "Why did you do that? And why didn't you do that?" Because it's just like literally like the soap operas used to be.
So I'll take you back to your first question and I'll go in order. I was landed in LA in 2017, February of 2017 with my agent and manager, my manager Joe Fowler, repping me. And fast forward a few years, I got an agent, and since then I'd done different auditions. I did Lethal Weapon, I did a guest star on Shameless. So I'd been doing little guest stars and like, 2, 3 lines. And then I got the opportunity to audition for Zatima in the fall of 2021. But in the spring of 2021, I auditioned for A Jazz Man's Blues, which was the other Tyler Perry movie that he took to theaters. So in that fall, I later auditioned for Zatima. So I was kind of always in that bubble of auditioning for different Tyler Perry projects, like
Right, right. He's
Sisters, like
always got something cooking.
he's all you ain't never lied. Um, and so fall 2021, November, I remember like it was yesterday, November 2021, I get the audition and the casting director, Kim Coleman, I love her work. She's an amazing casting director, big fan of hers. She had me audition for 2 parts. She's like, hey, audition for Tony and Nathan. And so I read the parts and I'm like, okay, I do the auditions. And I specifically told my agent, I was like, hey, if anything comes of this, I want to play this guy, Nathan.
Uh-huh.
Like, I think he's funny. I think he's a little wild. He's crazy. Kind of just does
Yeah,
things
your
his way.
personality, even in real life, kind of exudes Nathan. I can see that.
Yeah. So he's a little more ratcheted up, and a little more reckless. Um, I mean, but we all can be a little reckless. Yeah. And so I auditioned for it, and I submitted it, and a week later, I get a call. My agent's like, "Hey, you booked that TV show Zatima," and I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And I was
That's
like, "Which
pretty
part?" They were
great.
like, "Yeah, you're pinned for both parts," and I was like, "I'm pinned for both parts."
You're gonna play evil twins? Is that gonna be it?
Well, Tony's like my best friend on the show. He's the
Right.
like Zach, me and Zach, like it's the 3 of us. And so I was gonna either be his character is way more like a middleman. He's like a really good guy, kind of just goes with the flow. Where Nathan is just like very strong and opinionated and high strung. So I got pinned for both parts, and I told my agent, I said, hey, tell them I really want to play Nathan. I really want to play Nathan, and they were like, all right. And so then they could tell them, and they were like, okay, yeah, you can play Nathan. And
Oh,
then they
good for
negotiated the
you.
contract.
I love that story. I
Yeah. And
love
so,
that story,
yeah.
Cameron.
Hello, and thank you for listening to More to Say with Randy Naughton. When you're done with this episode, come check out another fun podcast called Mostly Superheroes, a variety talk show featuring me, your host Logan, Andy the Giggler, Scotty Scoop, and guests just like Randy Naughton, Steve Ewing, and Sean Gunn, and many more. Getting your fix for Marvel, Star Wars, TV, film, and inspiring stories from people in our community. Find more at mostlysuperheroes.com, search Mostly Superheroes in your podcast app and on YouTube, and ask your smart speaker, play the latest episode of Mostly Superheroes, the podcast. Enjoy the rest of this episode of More to Say with Randy Naughton, and we'll see you over at mostlysuperheroes.com.
Because you're now entwined in the world of Tyler Perry and his amazing mind and all that he creates, what is the one thing as a director, producer, writer that you are now? You are the CEO of Starving Artist Productions. What is the one thing that you can take from this genius who is Tyler Perry and put it into what you do now as far as your work on the side?
Absolutely. You know, when you think about Tyler Perry, you have to understand that this is a person who is always innovating and thinking 10 steps ahead, you know, not one or two. He is literally thinking 10 steps ahead and making plans and preparations for everything that's in his orbit. And so for me, starting on a micro level, not the macro that he's established, a micro level, um, I took from him the main ingredient is you have to bet on yourself. Tyler is self-made. You know,
Yeah,
Tyler funded his own plays for years, self-financed his own dreams. Um, Not everyone's going to take the risk on you. Not everyone sees what you see. And sometimes you just gotta bet on yourself. You have to trust your gut and follow your instincts. You know, like starting your own podcast. I mean,
right.
this is, you know, you're gambling and betting on Randy. And you got to do
You're
that.
not
Most
kidding. You
successful
ain't
people,
kidding.
right? Most successful people, though, they kind of feel like, yeah, I can do it. I've done it in one arena. I
Yeah.
can do it in the next arena.
Yep.
Study it. I'll learn it. I'll understand it, and then I'll go in and I'll be the man or woman in the arena. Everybody can chirp from the outside, but until you're down there on the field, it's a different game. And so I think that inspired me, you know, him just always betting on himself and creating his stories and telling the stories he wanted to tell, because the people with the money, they didn't kind of understand those stories, right? Like
Right.
they didn't understand about the matriarch of a predominantly you know, black household who kind of is seen as the instinctual figure for the family and the rock bed of the family. That's just not a story they're accustomed to, and that's okay. So he had to go out there and say, I'm going to tell this story because I know there's an audience that can relate to the story. And you find your audience, and you can be successful.
Wow, that is some really insightful and incredible advice. And you take what you learn and you turn it into your vocation,
Yeah,
which I want to pivot right now. I did mention that you're a
absolutely.
director, you're a producer, you're a writer, a filmmaker, CEO, and founder of Starving Artist Productions. And you now have a new film that was just released at film festivals, and it's really getting a lot of attention. It's called Runaway, and it's to bring awareness to the national epidemic of human trafficking. Heavy, heavy, heavy subject, obviously, but it's real life. Why
Yes.
did you choose to go that route? Why did you pick this subject matter to kind of put in the spotlight?
Um, as I've just discovered filmmaking as an art and understanding while different people tell different stories and different directors that I've just researched and understood, and, my own experiences working with Tyler. Um, I think sometimes the best lens to better understand a subject that you don't understand to is to use the talents and skills that you have to apply it to your everyday life. And for me, filmmaking is something that I incorporate into my everyday life. So I wanted to better understand how this is such a like epidemic, and how has it not gone unnoticed, but it's been going on for so long, but it now has just become very mainstream.
It's very much in the forefront now, and I know that it just wasn't something that we talked about before,
Yeah,
but now people talk about it. It's human trafficking is it takes on so many amazing, horrible
it
twists and
does.
turns. Tell us about the story of Runaway. And
Mhm.
if anybody can see it anywhere, because I know it's been in some film festivals, won some awards, lots of accolades. It just really tells the raw story of this, as you mentioned, epidemic.
Absolutely. So it follows this the journey of a young girl named Naomi, who basically is running away from home from an like just abusive, like, you know, just very chaotic, tumultuous home life. And she's you know, just turning 18, getting out on her own, and she's basically been kicked out of her living situation. So she's kind of homeless on the streets. But she, through the powers of social media, has still kind of just connected to the world, and she's on these apps and on these sites, and she's been talking to this guy who she thinks is a, you know, a friend of hers, and who basically kind of lures her to kind of just like leave and kind of just like start her own life and do her own thing, and he'll help her. And he ends up basically meeting up with her, you know, and basically like charming his way to just get her trust, and ends up trafficking her. And because through the powers of social media, she's been telling him things she's been going through, and he's been kind of using it against her to gain her
Sure.
trust and make it seem like, he's a friend of hers. And since 2020, it's a statistic, like 120% of like human trafficking interactions have come through online social media landscapes, these different apps and things that people use to communicate with people. And a lot of parents don't really know about these apps, and they don't really know what's taking
Right.
place in these chat rooms and the conversations that are being had with total strangers their kids are having. So it's really just to kind of bring awareness, really, to parents and a lot of people just at large, that like, hey, we need to figure out what's on these devices and who we're talking to. And because they're basically luring people, to into their arms. Like, human trafficking has evolved. It's not so much like you see a young pretty girl or young beautiful woman like yourself on the street, and you just like, hopefully it's at night and she's walking home, and you just grab her and throw her in a car somewhere.
It's
It's like,
so much
no,
more sophisticated
it's
now.
so much more sophisticated and
Yeah.
detailed now. And so it's kind of just bringing awareness about the sophistication and the the improvements of how these things are run. And honestly, the people who participate in them, they're not like, it's not all rich and powerful people. People that work at your restaurants, your bars, your schools,
Right.
who engage in these activities and in bidding on women and trafficking young girls. It's people you would never suspect. And that's kind of the whole point, is like, we have to be vigilant in society and be there for the most vulnerable people in our society and look out for them, because there are
Wow.
people preying on their vulnerability.
Such powerful messages. So
Yeah.
if somebody wanted to see this film that you created, called Runaway, where could they find it?
So me and my producers, we're gonna put it up on YouTube pretty soon, because
Okay.
it's we're waiting for the fall run to end. It ends in the end of October. So probably November, the first week of November, we'll get it up on YouTube, and I'll have a link on my Instagram
Awesome.
account and my Twitter account.
And for those who do want to follow you and, St. Louis guy doing great
Yeah,
stuff, what are your social media handles so we can kind of follow along with your antics?
absolutely. On Instagram, you can find me at @the_real_Cameron Fuller, and on Twitter, you can find me on @the_real_CF, uh, the real C Fuller at Twitter.
The Real C Fuller. And on Insta, I'm writing this down.
Yeah, of course.
The
And I'll give it to you after
Real,
we get up here.
the Real underscore Cameron.
The real_Cameron Fuller.
Okay. Okay, and I got to touch base before we leave you, before we let you get on with your day. In Hollywood, I got to hear, do you get back to St. Louis very often? And if you do, who do you visit? Where do you go? And what's your go-to meal to eat?
So I try to get back home to see my mom and just hang out with her and see my family. So I visit really my family, a couple friends if I'm in the area. Go-to meal, man. Honestly, I love White Castle. I know it's so basic. That is so basic.
Wait a minute. You got Pasta House, you got Emos,
I
you got
know.
all these St. Louis
I know.
favorite, all these amazing barbecue
These
places.
staples. Now, see the barbecue. Okay, so I will say see, I grew up in Jennings, in
Uh-huh.
Hazel. I grew up all over, so I do love the Chinese restaurants. But I used to love Lisa's. If anybody who knows this, Lisa's on Jennings Station Road.
Okay.
Lisa's Chop Suey was, but it's closed down a long time. That whole I haven't been over that whole area, River Roads area, in a long time. But yeah, Lisa's Chop Suey was a go-to back in the day when I was growing up in St. Louis.
All right.
I'm kind
That
of
sounds
heartbroken. So a good
well.
St. Paul, a good chicken St. Paul, we do a good right now with a best soda or something.
That's soda. There you go. You localized it for us. You did it. I love it. I
Yeah,
love it. Well,
yeah.
Cameron, I wish you nothing but the best. I appreciate you joining me today. You are delightful with a smile that just lights up the universe. I love it.
Oh, thank
I
you, Randy.
really appreciate good teeth. I really
Oh.
do. I always have. I really
Got
have.
to. In our business, you have to. So I
Yes,
understand.
indeed.
That's why I love your smile. See, exactly. See, we're smile twins, so we'll be good.
Yes, we are. And I'll be following you on Zatima and everything else you do. And, it's just, you're doing great things. And I appreciate you taking the time out of your day.
Absolutely. Thank you for the work you do as well. We
All
appreciate you.
right. Thank you, Cameron Fuller, for joining us. And that's going to do it for another edition of More to Say with Randy Naughton. Thanks for joining us. And thanks to our sponsor, the Lemp Mansion in St. Louis. Hauntings, history, great food, you name it, lots of cool stuff. Be sure to follow, like, subscribe, follow me on social media. Special thanks to our podcast partner, Logan Janis, as well. Until next time, thanks for joining us.
This has been More to Say with Randy Naughton. Interesting conversations with interesting people. Be sure to like or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.